Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be looking at another mon prominent in the UUbers meta. This time it's Landorus Therian. If you end up liking this video and you want to see more, then there's buttons to show it. And if you have any suggestions or feedback once you finish watching the video, then the comment section is a great place to put it. With that out of the way, let's get into why Landorus Therian is actually better in UUbers than in OU. So first let's look at what it does in OU and what makes people use it there. I just want people to know that I'm not an experienced OU player or anything. I have played the tier, but I'm not that high in elo or anything. So I'm mostly just taking things from Smogon. If I do get anything wrong though, then my bad, sorry. It's used in OU as a nice pivot and check to many of the physical setup mons in OU, as well as other threats like Raging Bolt, which are threatened super effectively. It's able to even be good into mons like Weavile if it uses Terra, and Rocky Helmet can punish U-turn spam, as well as getting lots of chip on rapid spinners and other physical attackers. It's great at setting rocks, and if it uses its teammates well, it can force switches and react defensively to them, racking up lots of chip in the process. Zamazenta, Great Tusk, Gouging Fire, and King Gambit are all top threats you need to handle in OU, and Landorus helps a lot with them, even running special sets to be better into those that boost their physical defense, or in the case of Gouging Fire, lower Landorus' physical attack. You can even run cards to threaten some mons that it wouldn't normally threaten by using Psychic or Grass Knot. You can even use Taunt to prevent setup, but it also works great to stop defensive mons from using moves like Toxic or Defog. Basically, it's a nice defensive pivot, and it checks a lot of the boxes and makes a lot of matchup better. And its customization options make it good on a wider range of teams. So, what does it do in UUbers? Well, its main role is to be a Zacian Answer, Electric Immunity, Physically Bulky Pivot, and Rock Setter. The set for this is usually Earthquake for stab damage, U-turn to pivot, Taunt to stop things like Giratina's Defog, Max Spikes, and Encore, or other various moves other utility mons would want to use. Stealth Rex is the last move, and Rocky Helmet is a common item choice to get more chip on mons like Zacian, Physical Arc Poison, and various other mons like opposing Landers using U-turn. Boots and Leftovers are also used sometimes. Max HP and defense is the EV spread, although some speed creep a bit. But wait a minute though, this is kind of like the exact same as in OU. But there's a way higher power level in Uber's UU, so how's Landorus supposed to be better if it takes more damage because everything is stronger? Well, it's clearly not anything about Landorus itself then, and more about the meta around it. To start out with, Uber's UU only has two viable ground types at the moment. Both of them are Landorus. While OU has things like Great Tusk, Gliscor, Clodsire, Tinglu, and even Iron Treads, these mons are either not available or not very viable in UUbers. Ursaluna and its Blood Moon form are the only other ones, and Ursaluna Hisui is like the Trick Room and fills a very different niche from Landorus Therian. Blood Moon, on the other hand, just isn't as good because it's outclassed by Landorus I as a special ground type powerhouse, and the things it does have aren't enough. So Landorus is the only ground type left that can fill a defensive role. But ground isn't the only typing that it's unique in, it's also the only viable flying type in the tier. Arceus Flying was banned for being too strong. The non-Uber flying types are mostly bad except for Mandibas and the Metal Birds, which aren't great and are still very uncommon and niche. And Lugia is stuck waiting for people to want to make a Z-Ubers. Pretty much the same situation as the ground type. Of course, it can't use its flying type offensively, but that's not a big deal because it is a defensive pivot and flying is really nice for the defensive value it brings. There's also its matchup into itself. It's the best check for Landorus Incarnate and offensive Lando T, which it does sometimes run. These sets generally use Scarf or sometimes may be banned with Earthquake, U-turn, Stone Edge, and some other coverage like Crunch or potentially Rocks if the team needs them. These variants are also decent, but Lando I is generally a better and more common Scarfer / offensive ground type, at least in my opinion. Speaking of Lando I, Landorus T is its worst enemy. Landorus Incarnate often likes to run a combination of Earth, Fire, U-turn, Stealth Rocks, Nasty Plot, Sludge Wave, and Focus Blast. The specifics depend on the item choice and what the team wants, but there's a common pattern. None of these hit the flying ground type combination for even neutral damage. Landorus have even started running Psychic for the sole purpose of beating other Landos. Like, it does literally nothing else. There's one final important reason Landorus Therian is better in UUbers than in OU. UUbers is dominated by Magirna. It's on nearly every team. You look at the usage stats and it's twice as far ahead as the number 2 mon. It's so far ahead, in fact, that there should just be a Magirna tier on the VR. Why bother calling it S+? And Landorus having a better matchup than a lot of other mons is really good. Magirna likes to spam spikes and find opportunities for his teammates with Volt Switch, but Landorus' flying type means it's unaffected by spikes, and its ground typing mean that it absorbs Volt Switch. Thunderwave is also the same as the first two moves I mentioned, and Encore can be played around through Taunt or just using Earthquake or U-turn. That said, it's Magirna. It does 55 to 65% to max HP Lando with an uninvested Flare Cannon. While it is a lot of damage, it's not without its drawbacks. Landers can take advantage of it by using Taunt and then U-turn to get a setup sweeper in, or just an offensive Pokemon in general. And that's really good, especially if it has Terra Ground. Or it can just use Earthquake and go for damage or force a switch, and U-turn to get momentum. If Magirna is using Draining Kiss, then you don't really take much damage at all, and Magirna is taking Rocky Helmet Chip, a big deal. This Magirna matchup makes a lot of difference, as there's not any mon that's as dominant as Magirna in OU. King Gambit was the number 1 mon on the usage stats in June, with 31%, while Magirna had 70% usage. To take it even further, Zacian, offensive Arceus Poison, Terrasili's Arceus Dragon, summons into Crowned, and some other mons are quite powerful offensively, and they're really important to deal with, and Landorus Therian, as it turns out, is just a mon to beat them. So that was why Landorus Therian is better in UUbers than in OU. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more, there's buttons for that. And a reminder that I'm still new to YouTube, so any feedback or suggestions are really appreciated. Now that I've said that, I've got nothing more to say. Bye.